Hi, I'm Nick Maselli. At TD Bank, we believe all citizens need to be informed about the important financial issues that affect their daily lives. That's why we're proud to support programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, founded by the Jewish community, TD Bank, NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, New Jersey Natural Gas, proud to support education in our communities, MagnaCare, New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation, and by Verizon Communications. Promotional support provided by NJ.com, Small News, Big News, True Jersey. And by NJ Biz, All Business, All New Jersey.
This is One-on-One.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
People like laughing at others, so I don't mind if the other is me.
See, you go right into the character. That's what it is.
I'm bringing families together a half an hour each week. Man, I'm doing something special.
And so I do feel successful.
Yeah, awesome.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. Welcome to a very special edition of One-on-One. This young lady you're about to see on camera, she was with us 20 years ago when she was a student at Rutgers University. She's back. Kathryn Finney, founder and managing director of an organization called Digital Undivided. How you doing?
I am well. I'm so excited to be back.
Well, it only takes 20 years to come
right?
back.
I look the same, right?
You look even better. You were great then. You were a student. We were talking about a controversy on Rutgers campus at the time. You come back as a successful entrepreneur. Describe Digital Undivided. What is it?
Sure. Well, Digital Undivided is a social enterprise that's focused on getting more urban entrepreneurs into the tech space. So we do a lot of work, not only in the tri-state area, but around the country and around the world in helping urban entrepreneurs, mostly Black and Latino entrepreneurs, get into tech.
Who came up with this idea?
Well, it actually came from me. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, my father was a brewery worker in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The brewery shut down.
Did they do beer out there?
They did, just a little beer, right? He worked at Schlitz, where most people know from Laverne and Shirley.
Sure.
The brewery shut down. He found himself at a local workforce development course, took a course in computing, fell in love with it, moved my family to Minnesota, got a job at Digital Equipment, became an engineer at Microsoft, and then when he passed away, he was the executive at EMC, which is a data storage company. And all of that led me to be into tech. I was a child during that time period, and I saw the power of tech in transforming my family and my community.
It's interesting. But you've also become an entrepreneur in this process. What is it? Do you think, well, let me put it this way. Do you think it's particularly challenging or more challenging for minorities and women to enter the high-tech field than it is for the rest of us who happen not to fall into that demographic category?
I don't think it's necessarily more of a challenge.
Well, why do you target that population?
Well, I target that population because I don't think we have what is called patterns. So those of us who are involved in the tech space, you hear this word thrown all around a lot, which is that there's a pattern to who's successful. And because of that pattern, and usually the pattern is a 25-year-old young white guy who went to Harvard, MIT, or Stanford, and that's what success is in tech. And if you don't fit into that identity, then you somehow may not be successful.
And those of us from Rutgers, we're not in that?
We're not in that list, no.
Even though they don't know that that's an Ivy League school?
Well, exactly.
We know that.
We know that. They don't know that. Exactly.
Okay, so you graduated from Rutgers.
Yes, I did.
But you go into government. You go work in the White House.
Yeah.
You work for United States Senator Paul Wellstone.
Yeah.
So you're in government, and where does this other thing come into your life?
Well, after that, I went and got a graduate degree from Yale in epidemiology.
Oh, now you're bragging. A real Ivy League school. Go ahead.
And
epidemiology.
In epidemiology, yeah, the study of diseases and its impact on populations. And so while I was an epidemiologist, I was traveling a lot, going to great places, but I fell in love. And as a result of falling in love, I couldn't travel as much as I used to, came back, my fiance, who became my husband, suggested that I start a little blog. And this was in 2003 when blogs were like really, really new, way back in the stone ages of the internet. I started a little blog called The Budget Fashionista.
The Budget Fashionista.
Yes.
It's not a little blog anymore?
No, it grew to be a whole brand, led to a book by Random House. I sold the blog and did very well for myself, and then thought of what was I going to do next. I wanted to do something that was going to impact my community. I wanted to find more people like me who may have wanted to go into this space but didn't know how, that didn't fit that pattern that I mentioned before, but knew that they had a great tech idea. And so Digital Undivided was developed and created.
When you help folks and you see them succeed, what do you see?
When I help folks and I see them succeed, I really see the future. I see the possibilities. I see how we are changing what is possible. I think you can't be what you can't see. I think with every person that Digital Undivided helps become a successful entrepreneur, that then leads to other people seeing the possibility of becoming a successful entrepreneur. One of the issues in tech right now, and why there's so much discussions about diversity, is that tech has a marketing problem. It has an image problem. Everyone that's the face of tech fits that certain pattern. And until that pattern changes, until that marketing changes, it's going to be very difficult for other people to see the possibilities for themselves.
Be more specific. Are you talking about Mark Zuckerberg?
I'm talking about Mark Zuckerberg.
You're talking about people who just look like that and that's it?
Yeah, and that's it.
Young white guys in a hoodie, is that it?
Yes, young white guys in a hoodie. And that's not to take anything away from their success. They're amazingly brilliant.
No, it's a pretty narrow population.
But it's a pretty narrow population, a pretty narrow definition. And if you fit outside of that, it can be very hard to see yourself as being a success in that space. So tech needs to change its marketing. You need more people who look like me, more people who look like others who are really successful in this space.
You love what you do.
I do. It's fun. It's great.
So I need to ask you something.
Sure.
We started a little blog.
Yeah.
We call
Good
it
for
Lessons in Leadership. Actually, going to be a book out of the same name. So I have to ask you this.
Congratulations.
We're asking the most interesting people who come in here that have been leaders this question. What is the number one lesson in leadership you have learned through all the things that you've done as an entrepreneur? Number one lesson in leadership is?
The number one lesson in leadership is that sometimes you have to walk alone as a leader. Sometimes you may have a vision, you may see something that other people can't. You may be able to see around the corner where other people can only just see straight forward. And as a leader, you have to have faith in yourself and enough mission, enough passion to be able to pursue that, even when others may not see it.
How about everybody else tells you you're crazy?
Well, then it's up to you to convince everyone else that they're crazy too and to join you.
I love it. Finally, what is next for Digital Undivided?
Well, we're really excited. We're actually raising a VC fund to be able to fund our companies. We're really excited about that. We have a couple of programs we're doing out west. We're doing a program in New York City. We have our weekly DID Tech Talks, which are tech conversations we have on Twitter. We have a new project we have called Project Diane, which is named after the civil rights leader Diane Nash, who is very, very influential in civil rights, but not many people know her. And it's all about gathering information on top companies that are founded or co-founded by Black and Latino women founders.
You have come a long way from that interview 20 years ago when you were a budding student at Rutgers University, and we're proud of you.
Thank you so much.
You make everyone at Rutgers proud.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stay right there. This is One-on-One, fascinating people talking about important things. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thank you.
Thank you.
To see more One-on-One with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD, and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
Noreen Springstead, Executive Director of Why Hunger. Good to have you with us.
Yeah, great to be here.
Why
Thank
Hunger
you.
is?
Why Hunger is an organization that's been around for 40 years, started by the artist and activist Harry Chapin in 1975. You probably know him from the song Cats in the Cradle.
Absolutely.
He did every other concert to fight hunger, and his family's still very involved. But at the core, we're really about getting to the root causes, not just the charitable solutions, but with a framework around justice.
We're going to put up your website as we do this segment.
Great.
How'd you get involved in this?
It's my first job out of college.
No.
Yes. I started at the front desk. I graduated at Rutgers in 1990, and if you remember, there was a recession then. It was really tough to get a job, but I was determined to make a difference with my life. And just when I was running out of options, I saw an ad in a print paper, which is the way it was done back then, applied for the job and got it within the next day or two, and was so thrilled and happy to be making a difference that I gave it my all, worked my way up from the front desk, doing program work out in the field, and now, recently, the executive director.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's been great. I like to say my dad started in the mailroom at IBM, so we kind of have a similar trajectory there.
You know, there's an interesting part of this. We were talking before you got on the air that your family originally from Ireland.
Yeah, my 4 grandparents are from 4 different parts of Ireland.
So when we talk about hunger,
Yeah,
when we talk about people struggling,
yeah.
your forefathers know a little bit about that?
It's deeply ingrained in the Irish psyche.
For those who don't understand what you're talking
Yeah,
about, describe it.
the Great Hunger, as they call it. It was the famine of 1847. It was a combination of political, economic oppression meets environmental storm with the potato blight. So more than 1 million Irish went hungry. Several people died, and it left a real scar on the Irish. And it speaks to me. I heard my grandparents talk about it while it was really their parents that were directly affected. And they came to America to have a better life. So it's interesting, as I was choosing to make a difference, that hunger would be the place where I ended up.
And for your organization and those you serve, I'm curious because I think people would be surprised to find out who is in fact going hungry.
Yes, it is kind of a great secret in America that there are 49 million Americans who are hungry. Many of them are working families, people working 40+ hours a week, not able to make ends meet, making difficult choices between paying the rent, paying the utility bills, and buying the groceries, or skipping meals themselves so that their children can eat. So there's something very unjust about that and just not right. The kind of society we want to be in America, we want everybody to prosper, and hopefully we'll make some moves to...
How do you help them?
How do you help
How does
them?
your
Well,
organization
first and
help them?
foremost, we work with thousands of emergency food providers, food banks, soup kitchens, food pantries, a lot of them in New Jersey. We have work with a network called MEND out of Newark. They work in towns like Maplewood and in Newark and other areas, serving people in need. Again, mostly working families. We give them media attention, food donations, grassroots support. We work with artists, some New Jersey artists like Bruce Springsteen we've been working with for
How has he helped?
over 20+ years. We work with his management team to connect him to local food banks and soup kitchens and community food programs all across the U.S. If you've been to a Springsteen show, you always hear him give a shout out at the end. Support your local food bank. They're on site there to help. We're a big part of that process. So getting them attention and dollars.
So artists matter.
Artists matter.
How so?
They give a voice to the voiceless. People that don't necessarily have a platform, they can bring attention, they can bring resources. And in the case of Springsteen, he does it very quietly. His fans know that he's committed to fighting hunger.
The rest of us, what do we owe?
What
do we owe and what can we do?
What do we owe? I think we owe ourselves the awareness. These are our neighbors, our friends, sometimes our colleagues, people that just can't make ends meet. What can we do? If you're a gardener, you can share your harvest. There's a wonderful New Jersey organization called Ample Harvest, connecting local gardeners to food pantries all across the U.S. You can give your dollars. We, up and down the New Jersey travel plazas, we have boxes out in partnership with HMS Host.
Tell everyone what that is, HMS Host.
HMS Host is they provide the food services up and down the Garden State Parkway and the New Jersey Turnpike. So you can drop your quarter, your dollar in there, and then we invest that in New Jersey organizations like Elijah's Promise and the Community Food Bank and Center for Food Action, who are on the front lines helping hungry people. And you can raise your voice. People should be concerned about a living wage so that...
How is that connected to hunger?
Hunger is a symptom of poverty. It's really about poverty. There's plenty of food to go around. If you've been to the supermarket, you can see there's an abundance of food.
Yeah.
So people just don't make enough money to make ends meet.
Real quick on the Hungerthon, what is it and
Sure.
why?
Hungerthon is a radiothon. It's been going on for almost 30 years. CBS Radio and Sirius XM, they use their broadcast airwaves to raise awareness about hunger. We do it at Thanksgiving. It's a big fundraiser for us, and it gets the community very involved.
Before I let you out of here, we're asking leaders of all stripes a question about the most important leadership lesson that they have learned in their work. So I ask you, number one leadership lesson you've learned is?
Great question. You don't have to take credit for everything. It's important to give credit to your coworkers. Take a step back. Instead of being worried about yourself saying, I did this, no, praise that person that did it. And it will go a long way. It gives a lot of mileage in the workplace to inspire them to do more.
Pays off, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Noreen Springstead, who is very closely connected to Bruce Springsteen.
Just a couple letters.
Exactly, and he's a big help to an organization
Yes.
called Why Hunger, and you're the executive director. Noreen, thanks so much.
That's right. Thanks, Steve.
Stay right there.
Great.
We'll be right back right after this. Thank you very much.
Terrific.
To see more one-on-one with Steve Adubato programs, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato PhD and follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
My colleague Joanna Gagis takes us to Virtua in South Jersey to see how this hospital is changing its approach to women's health through alternative medicine and more comprehensive care.
Women today have any number of responsibilities. They're employees, moms, executives, wives, caretakers. Many times they're the CEOs of their family, making very important decisions, especially when it comes to the health needs of the family. But so often they take care of everyone but themselves. That's why Virtua has dedicated primary and specialty care services just for women to help support them and, in turn, better care for the family as a whole. I'm here with Kelly Nearstead, who is the Assistant Vice President of Women's and Children's Services at Virtua. Kelly, Virtua has really taken a close look at the needs of the women in this population in New Jersey. Why is it important that we treat the woman as a whole?
We actually went out into the community and asked women what it was they wanted from health care. And the answers were a little surprising. And I think what we heard was much less about those specific services and much more about what the experience is and how women really want to be treated as a whole. Women said loud and clear that they really wanted some alternatives to traditional medicine, complementary alternatives to treatments, integrated medicine options. They talked about weight management services, particular issues around menopause, issues with female incontinence. It's something that women don't really like to talk about. And I think there was a time when women would say, well, I had 3 babies, so of course that's going to happen, or it's part of being older. Women really want to take control for their health, and some of the services that Virtua wants to offer is in a direct response to what the community is telling us they need.
Dr. Polina Karmazin specializes in integrative medicine, which can be used in support of, and in some cases as an alternative to, traditional medicine.
In this practice, we mainly concentrate on complementary medicine, which includes acupuncture, homeopathic medicine, and biopuncture, among other things. Acupuncture has been around for 4,000 years. Biopuncture is a newer, very unique injection therapy where we combine homeopathic medicines with acupuncture.
What does that do for the body?
It stimulates more particular points.
And the purpose for that stimulation?
Well, the way acupuncture works, we place a very thin needle, as you can see, that's really tiny and very thin, and we place the needle into a particular acupuncture point. And by stimulating that point, the body can excrete certain substances, for example, endorphins, and that is a natural painkiller. It stimulates the body to heal itself.
What do your patients come in presenting that you're able to treat through your practice?
There is a really wide variety, from regular common cold to patients with knee pain, arthritis of the knee, back pain, neck pain, headaches. But also it's been proven that acupuncture can work to regulate the heart rate, the blood pressure, in patients who have insomnia, anxiety, irritable bowel syndrome, reflux. I also treat patients for weight loss and for smoking cessation.
Are you trying to, through the homeopathic medicine, replace Western medicine?
No, not at all. It's a complementary medicine, and sometimes it's much safer and has less side effects. And so some patients prefer to go that route. To some people, it's really like a miracle.
Mary Jo, describe the pain that you were living with before being treated by Dr. Karmazin.
Okay, chronic sinus pain. The pain was truly so bad. I said, I have to find something to relieve this pain. The first time I came in, she reviewed all my medical history. I gave her the history of all my surgeries. I gave her the history of my pain. And I think that's the key. You need somebody that will treat all of you, not just the one or two symptoms that you represent to them. She started me off with homeopathy, and then we started the acupuncture. I'm much better. My quality of life is much, much better. I would have to say I'm 1,000% better than what I was before.
I'm here with Dr. Mina Lazarus, who is the lead physician at the Virtua Women's Primary Care and Wellness Center. Dr. Lazarus, first of all, this is a beautiful office space, and this is what your patients walk into when they come to your office. Is that intentional?
Absolutely. One of the first things you notice when you come in is the relaxing atmosphere, the welcoming of the staff. It makes you feel more at home and more welcome in the doctor's office, and makes it feel less scary to be in.
You spend a lot of time with your patients, getting to know them, screening them. Why is that time so important?
When a woman feels like she's listened to, she feels that she's comfortable enough to ask questions that she may not have asked before.
What are some of the things that you find because you dig and because you spend the time that otherwise women would be hesitant to bring up?
The most common thing we found are things like urinary issues, bladder incontinence, uterine prolapse, hormonal issues, menopause issues, that normally women just think is a part of aging and they never would have brought up before, had I not asked during our initial interview.
As a primary care physician, do you feel that it's your job and your responsibility to get to know every aspect of your patient's health?
Absolutely, and in this program, where women are given the time, we can find out about their social lives, their family lives, what stresses they have, what makes them happy, what makes them sad, and that all plays into a part into their medical care. It's not just the medicines that they're on.
Karen, how would you describe Dr. Lazarus's approach to you the first time you saw her?
She's very personable, makes you feel very comfortable. When I first started seeing her, I definitely felt like I could talk to her, open up to her. And as time goes on, I feel like it's more of a personal relationship than I'm coming to the doctor. I did just have a baby. And, you know, sometimes my feelings are all over the place. So you kind of have to wonder.
Is that one of the things that you addressed with Dr. Lazarus?
I did.
Explain that.
A couple months after I had my daughter, I was kind of feeling a little depressed. And not with her, just with myself. Just kind of feeling like I didn't know what direction I was going in or if I was doing things right, kind of second guessing myself. And I'm still feeling that way, and it's nice to be able to come and, you know, open up to Dr. Lazarus and just know that there's resources for me and that other people out there are feeling the same way.
Just butterfly bandages.
Dr. Colleen McCleary treats menopausal and premenopausal patients with bioidentical hormone replacement therapy using plant-based estrogen and testosterone that has the exact molecular structure as that in our bodies.
Somewhere around 38 to 40, we start losing our testosterone first, which we really didn't realize how important that was until recently. By the time you're 38, 40, you have about half as much as you had when you were in your 20s. And testosterone, we need that to make our moods better because it increases serotonin in our bodies. It makes us less irritable, less moody, less depressed. Makes us be able to handle stress that we couldn't handle before. It increases your libido.
Do many women know that they may suffer from low testosterone?
Not at all. they're shocked when they find out that that's what testosterone does for us. They're completely shocked.
As a woman, it's not on our radar.
They're only thinking estrogen, I need estrogen. I can't come to you until I'm having hot flashes and night sweats and not sleeping.
Both the estrogen and testosterone treatments are administered through pellet injections called exuberin. And what is exuberin?
What it is bioidentical hormones in pellets. And what we do with those pellets is we surgically implant them in the vat in your butt, and it keeps a constant state in your body. Versus if you were to take a tablet or put a gel on yourself or put a patch on. And all women are different. So, for example, you can last anywhere from 3 to 4 months, so you don't have to come as often.
How would you explain the way that this could change a woman's life?
This is the best job ever, like really and truly. Like my patients, you know, they come in thinking they're crazy. They think they're losing their mind. And I say, you're not crazy. We can help you. They come back. Within a week, their hot flashes and night sweats are gone. And they're just like, oh, thank you. I feel like normal again. I feel like myself. I'm not that person who is tired all the time. They're so much better that it just brings me so much joy, because that's what I went into medicine for, was to help people.
Carrie, what life events led you to undergo hormone replacement therapy?
I started experiencing the common hot flashes that women do when they're going through menopause. They were embarrassing. I felt that I would get a little bit short-tempered and irritable, which really isn't my nature. I didn't find it fair to my family. It wasn't fair that they would have to suffer.
How would you explain the change that you feel in your life after you undergo the bioidentical hormone therapy?
Well, I almost feel it immediately. I was very impressed with Dr. McCleary because I found her very personable. She was concerned with my whole well-being, that not just my body physically, but my mental state, my spirit. I just feel like I have more energy and I'm happier.
Probably helps.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the Healthcare Foundation of New Jersey, TD Bank, New Jersey Institute of Technology, New Jersey Natural Gas, MagnaCare, New Jersey Sharing Network, and by Verizon Communications. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
Hi, I'm Peter Rooney. In 2006, I lost my father to renal disease. He was on the waiting list for a new kidney, but did not receive one in time. Unfortunately, so many like my father have lost their lives while waiting for a life-saving organ. At New Jersey Sharing Network, we're committed to saving and enhancing people's lives through organ and tissue donation and by informing people about this important decision. Because you can make a difference and save a life.